I have never been afraid of heights and had walked all the way to the edge to take a look down at the rocks below. It was an incredible sight to see the ocean surf crashing against a shoreline of craggy boulders. We had to be at least 300 feet up from the sea. We both unrolled our sleeping bags and laid them out under this beautiful pine tree. We said our good nights and I drifted into a deep slumbering sleep. Morning came quick, it seemed as fast as I had closed my eyes. The sun began to rise over the horizon when Julie woke me up just a few short hours later. She insisted we get up and leave. She hadn't slept a wink because of strange sounds she said had persisted through the night, and apparently started right after I drifted off to sleep. I asked her what it was she was talking about. I stretched and widened my eyes unwillingly. So I asked her, "What noise are you talking about?" And she replied, "I have been hearing a woman crying all night long, just sobbing, and said she looked around and saw no one." I wasn't really too talkative and wasn't taking in everything she was saying, but I do remember suggesting that maybe it was the wind passing through the rocks, or perhaps from the wind blowing through the cove that could make it sound like a woman crying. I was trying to extricate myself from my sleeping bag and slowly started rising to my feet. I started to roll my sleeping bag up and felt like someone was watching me. I turned and looked over my right shoulder and saw a woman standing there at the walkway path. The woman stood straight across from us looking bewildered and sad. She was staring in such a way that it made me feel extremely uncomfortable. She looked so intently as if she were in a catatonic state. She didn't even blink or move a muscle as she continued looking strangely right through me. Julie was to my left and rolling up her sleeping bag. I asked her, I said, "What is this woman's problem anyway? And why is she staring at us like that?" Julie turned to her right and looked over toward where I said she was and responded, "What woman?" I said, "That lady over there with the short blonde hair and shorts. She's right over there." I turned to point her out and she was gone. I knew that there had to be only two ways that a person could go, either to the left or to the right. Anyone walking to the left or the right could easily be seen walking in either of those directions. We then started to walk back to the car. I looked around and did not see a single soul in the area. I was thinking about the situation and thought it was a little strange why anyone would be there at the park alone at the crack of dawn and interested in us when the waterfall is so much more interesting to look at. I remember on the way home both Julie and I were pretty quiet. I guess we were contemplating the events of that evening and what had just happened with that woman in the park. Julie slept most of the way during the drive back home to Santa Cruz. After arriving at the house, we said our goodbyes and she drove back to Bonnie Doon to get some much needed sleep. As the day turned into night, I received a phone call from Julie and she had asked if I had read the newspaper that day. I replied no that I hadn't, and she said to go get one while she waited on the phone. I picked up the Santa Cruz Sentinel from the woman next door. I asked her if I could borrow it and she complied. As I came back to the phone, Julie directed me to the obituary section. I remember her frantically saying, "Did you find it? Did you find it yet?" I was having trouble finding the notice when she directed me to the page to the very article that would be the pivotal part of this whole story. Right there in the obituary section, about halfway down the page, there it was in black and white. A woman had been found the night before in Julia Pfeiffer Burns State Park, the victim of an apparent suicide, found hanging from that very tree we slept under. And then it hit me. I now understood. The woman crying through the night that kept Julie awake. The woman I saw staring directly toward us at dawn. It all made sense, and it all came together for both of us at that very moment. This has left an indelible mark on my very soul. This is a story that I have been wanting to tell for almost 30 years now. I have regretted not cutting out the obituary from the newspaper that evening, but a friend of mine who still lives in Santa Cruz was able to search the library archives for me and retrieve that very clipping as proof that this really did happen. I feel relieved that I have finally documented this story and have shared this with you. A weight has been lifted off my shoulders as I pose the question, is there life after death? I still couldn't say for sure with any true certainty, but obviously there is something going on that no one human could ever put their finger on or give a definitive answer to where we go from here. Coincidence? Perhaps. I don't really think so, though. I am sure other people could give other explanations about what had happened that fateful evening, but I was there, they were not. Remember this saying from Echelon? Have reverence for all living things? Well, I believe that life goes beyond just the living. I'm DomBianco, and this is my story.